A sudden blackout causes panic in civilians who believe it is the end of the world. However, learning the truth of the blackout, the military must try to stop the being behind it and save the world. Late at night, an emergency alarm blares at a military outpost in the Kirov region. Soldiers prepare to fight the enemy approaching and position themselves to defend the outpost. The soldiers listen intently as they hear of the whereabouts and descriptions of their enemies. Their enemies are described as moving at 20 kilometers per hour and to be bigger than humans. Despite their confusion of who the enemy is, the soldiers maintain their stance and aim their laser weapons at the forest. A month prior in Moscow, serviceman Oleg is on a date with Alina. Alina seems to doubt the stories Oleg is telling her. He mentions to her that he voluntarily enlisted for Special Airborne Brigade. Although Alina was first doubtful, she begins to listen to his stories with more interest. Later, the two go back to Oleg's place and get frisky. After they're done, a blackout occurs in the world, except for a small area in Europe. People within the blackout collapse, however. Oleg and Alina are oblivious to what's happening outside. A few minutes later, a swarm of drones appear to signal Oleg of an emergency. As Alina and Oleg head down to the ground floor, they watch the news with a group of people, which says that their city has lost contact with the rest of the world. The group theorizes if this is a war or something else. They also learn that their city is now known as the Circle of Life. Meanwhile, Major Dolmatov, inside a combat aircraft, tells his soldiers that they are on a quick recon mission. Their target is a large town that they have lost contact with, despite sending drones that never returned. He also tells a journalist, Olya, to stay silent throughout the mission. As they reach the neighboring town, they search for any survivors from the blackout. Olya begins to record the search with her camera. Entering a grocery store, they discover many corpses on the ground. Shocked, the soldiers wonder about the reason for so many deaths. Continuing on, they still search the entire building. Suddenly, a soldier, Kolya, is attacked by an unknown perpetrator. When the soldiers rush to the scene, they see the attacker escaping through the window. Through the window, they shoot at the attacker, but he manages to survive and escapes. Kolya has minor injuries due to the bullets being stuck in his vest. However, his weapons have been taken by the attacker. The team carries Kolya on a stretcher back onto the combat aircraft. Kolya confesses that the attacker came out of nowhere and blinded him with a light, so he couldn't see him properly. Terrified, they all flee the town. Dolmatov tells headquarters that there were no survivors among the civilians. He also tells the headquarters that there was one unidentified attacker. 1 month later, the city has still not gained contact with the rest of the world. The authorities have asked citizens to remain calm. However, this order has been ignored by some religious groups who anticipate the end of the world. Sometime later, a cab driver, Yura, receives a letter to join the military. He doesn't tell his mother, who is sick. He tells his mother he's going to work and leaves to join the mandatory enlistment. The next morning, in the military outpost in Kirov, Lieutenant Colonel Marina arrives. She enters the military barracks and introduces herself to the newly recruited soldiers. She explains that everything outside of the Circle of Life has shown no signs of life. Elaborating, she explains that the cause of death of the people has been determined as endogenous neurotoxins, chemicals the body creates. The main goal of the military is to collect data for the scientists, and the secondary goal is to keep moving into the quarantine zone. She tells them of the missing tanks and soldiers sent to the quarantine zone. A while later, Oleg and Yura are conversing when they see Alina, a military medic. Oleg is surprised to see her after a month, but the alarms go off and the soldiers have to get into position. Marina warns Dolmatov of the unidentified creatures approaching. As the radiation levels rise, the lights in the area are shut off. Dolmatov fires his flare gun 3 times to get a view of the target location. Suddenly, many bears start running toward the soldiers to attack them. While the soldiers try to shoot the bears, they are still attacked. Oleg becomes unconscious during the attack. The next morning, Oleg is covered with blood and finds himself trapped underneath the remains of a dead bear. Yura is able to free Oleg and puts him on a stretcher. Sometime later, Oleg meets Alina again in a military hospital bed. He confesses to her he imagined seeing her, but she tells him she's actually a medic. She claims she just failed to mention they worked in the same field during their date, so she wouldn't ruin the mood. Meanwhile, Dolmatov questions Marina of the sudden appearance of the bears at the outpost. Marina tells him about the sensors, a group of individuals who are receiving data in their minds, and would be useful to the military in understanding the current situation. At the same time, Sasha, one of the sensors, has a nightmare where he sees a creepy bald man turning to look at him. Waking up in a panic, he notices Zhenya's presence on his bed. Zhenya claims he was sent by Id, an alien, to meet Sasha. Zhenya warns Sasha of the end of humanity if he refuses to help. Fearful and confused, Sasha initially does refuse to help and calls two soldiers guarding his door to kick Zhenya out. However, the soldiers are confused as they can't see Zhenya. Believing that Sasha is hallucinating, they call a doctor to check on him. Back at the military outpost, the soldiers prepare to go on an investigation operation, and Oleg insists on joining, even with his injuries. The soldiers depart, with the help of tanks, combat aircraft, and military vehicles. While they are traveling, Olya asks Yura's opinion about the deaths of millions of people. Yura then admits that he's not impacted by the deaths because he hasn't lost anyone he cared about. He also admits that whatever is happening is giving him a chance to start a new life. As they reach the quarantine zone, they're shocked to find the neighboring city completely ruined. The news of the city reaches the public, and the experts believe that the government is hiding an enemy from the people. Panicked, the public engages in a rally to attack the soldiers. Crime rates in the city rises, with store robberies and mass hoarding of food supplies by the people. Amid the chaos, the higher-ranking military officers hold a press conference. They explain that the Circle of Life is fighting against an unknown group of people. To discover the unknown people, they send out units of soldiers to observe the affected areas and go deeper into the quarantine zone. Yura's group, named Team 7, is fully equipped as they leave the border of the Circle of Life. Olya is with the group as well. Meanwhile, Oleg's group, called Team 4, arrives at Kharkino village. Splitting up, they investigate their surroundings but are unable to find movement. Suddenly, one of the soldiers, Lavrin, screams and alerts the group. Rushing to his aid, they find his leg has been pierced by a metal rod. Wasting no time, Oleg pulls the rod from his leg while Lavrin screams in pain. Team 7 arrives in Kurdi village and finds a tall building to serve as their observation base. The next morning, a military vehicle arrives at Team 4's base, and Alina exits the vehicle. Oleg is glad she's here, and Alina immediately works to heal Lavrin's wound. Meanwhile, Yura wakes Olya for breakfast. As she joins the group, Yura flirts with her, but is stopped by his fellow soldiers. Lieutenant Maxim orders Yura to stand by the window, and Yura notices a grocery store door open. Asking Olya for her video recordings from the previous night, he notices the recordings show the door had been closed. They set up a trap for the next unidentified person. Sasha is resting in a shed, when suddenly Id appears in front of him. Zhenya had talked about Id in front of Sasha, but Sasha believes he's hallucinating again. After Id shows his face to Sasha, he invites Sasha to join him in looking for the creepy bald man from his dream. Id introduces the creepy bald man as his brother Ra. However, Sasha is still not willing to join him. Marina appears, and upon seeing Id, points her gun at him. 4 soldiers join, pointing their guns at Id. Id uses his power to control the 4 soldiers, who eventually point their guns at Marina. Shocked by this turn of events, Marina lowers her gun as Id approaches her. Id convinces Marina that he will discuss the current events with her peacefully. Meanwhile, as Team 7 waits, someone triggers the trap. Going into the store, they realize the affected person is a teenager who is alive but has been seriously injured. Olya tries filming but is stopped by Yura. Taking the kid back to base, they comfort the child as he wakes up. However, when Lieutenant tries to talk to the boy, he stabs him with a knife and is shot down by a soldier. Team 4 and Team 7 are attacked by armed civilians, and many get killed in the process, although the soldiers fight bravely. Meanwhile, Id explains to Marina that it was radiation that caused 160 million humans to become mindless puppets to aliens. Id commanded the activation of the irradiation when the moon was over the water. However, he ordered the irradiation process when the moon was over their country. This is how the circle of life was created. It explains that his kind did this to gain control of Earth, since their own star has died out, but Earth still has the sun. It admits that he has been on the Earth for 200,000 years, and tomorrow his species would arrive on Earth. He tells Marina that the neighboring countries will start attacking them soon. He tells her that his brother Ra is responsible for the controlling of humans, and they need Sasha to locate his brother. Initially, Marina is hesitant, but she receives a report about an attack on the military posts, proving Id is right. Marina, realizing they don't have much time, agrees to ID's plan. A while later, the teams shoot their flash guns, which show the circle of life which ones have survived. Olya is scared, but Yura tells her they're on their own. Sometime later, Sasha, Id, Zhenya, and Marina depart for the outposts to find Ra. During the journey, Marina asks Id about his species. He tells them that he can regenerate from any wound, and he will live long unless he is killed. Zhenya claims he trusts Id, as he cured him from a terminal illness. Meanwhile, Team 7 figures out a plan to escape. They decide to climb down from their base and visit neighboring villages to find other soldiers. Olya panics, but Yura manages to calm her down by kissing her before lowering her down to the ground. Reaching the outpost, they're greeted by Dolmatov. D asks for a separate room for Sasha to use his powers. D covers his eyes, and Sasha starts to see Ra in his vision, while his body shakes. Sasha draws Ra's location in a notebook, which shows that Ra is in a tall building in Kirov. However, when Ra turns to look at Sasha in the vision, Sasha's eyes open immediately. Dolmatov questions what is happening, and Id reveals he is an alien but is on their side, while explaining the alien invasion to him. A person informs the major of the attack on Moscow. Team 7 come across a group of people but shoot them down immediately. A woman begs to be saved, but Yura shoots her, as Olya protests. As Olya calms down, they're attacked by a new group. Many people are killed in the shootout, but Yura and Olya are the only ones who are able to survive. However, Yura is wounded in the battle. They find a garage to hide in, and Yura asks Olya to find a car that works. As she finds a car, she sees Yura's wound, and he asks her for a first aid kit. The two escape in their found car. At the same time, Id plans on going to find Ra, but says that he will leave Sasha behind. So Dolmatov, Zhenya, Id, Marina, and some other soldiers depart in a military tank. Inside the vehicle, Marina questions where Sasha is, but is told that Ra recognized Sasha, and their plan would fail if he was brought along. Angered, Marina orders the vehicle to turn back, to go to the outpost. However, at that moment, she sees the military base being attacked by numerous missiles, killing many soldiers and Sasha. Furious, Marina points her gun at Id and confronts him about leaving Sasha behind. It simply says that if Sasha was with them, they would have been hit with the missiles, and therefore humanity would have been doomed. The next morning, Yura and Olya arrive at the Karkino village and find Oleg and his team, despite the destruction of the town. A military tank arrives at the same time, and the teams are reunited. Dolmatov informs the soldiers of their objective to stop Ra, the commander of the enemy attacks. However, when the soldiers see Id, they aim to shoot at him, but are stopped by Marina. The team leaves to find Ra at the skyscraper. Meters away from the building, they find many armed civilians. An unnoticed civilian carrying a bomb on his back drops from a building onto one of the tanks, leading to an explosion. Seeing this, the tank continues moving forward while the civilians attack and shoots them down. Reaching the skyscraper, they shoot more civilians inside. Some soldiers stay on the ground, while Yura and two soldiers go to the roof. Opening fire on Dolmatov's command, the soldiers kill the civilians. Oleg runs out of ammunition and heads to Dolmatov's position to request a team moving to a neighboring building. Dolmatov commands him and Marina to leave while the others cover them. Oleg brings Alina, Olya, and Zhenya to the rooftop. Being outnumbered, the soldiers shoot, but soon lose ammunition. Noticing a truck full of bombs come their way, they try to stop it. But as the truck reaches them, it explodes, killing them all. Meanwhile, while reaching the roof, Yura shoots enemies coming down the stairs. Yura and Id are able to reach the roof, and Id signals Yura to start the attack. However, Yura almost dies, as Ra throws him off the roof. It attacks Ra, and after an intense battle, is able to remove a device from his chest, which Yura replaces with a smoke bomb. With Ra dead, Id controls the people, and renders them all dead. It comforts the group, telling them they can repopulate the Earth. However, the group is angered, and Zhenya regrets helping Id all this time. While the group fights, Zhenya attempts to stab Id, but ends up killing Marina instead. Oleg tries to kill Id, but he is stopped by Yura. As they tussle, Olya shoots Yura to save Oleg. Zhenya tackles Id and jumps off the roof with him, killing them both. Suddenly, an alien ship lands on the ground, and Alina, Oleg, and Olya gather weapons to go inside. Inside the ship, they notice aliens in sleeping pods, and to stop them from waking up, destroy their oxygen tanks. When they see children aliens, they spare them, leading to a new generation forming on the planet Earth. Thank you for watching. Be sure to like our channel and subscribe if you enjoy content like this. Also, let us know what movie you would love us to recap for you.